So you've noticed from my not for viewing video series that I'm trying to establish the fact that I can travel to and from one end of Orange County, California to another and have rare appearances of police vehicles or what have you until such time as an attempt to harass in one way or another occurs. And that's the whole point of that series. And so with that always as a context, always remembering that I can travel around and not see police vehicles except for these specific moments, we present to you what occurred ever since January, or actually July 27th of 2012. My wife had purchased her vehicle beginning of May, I believe. So this is the sort of stuff that's happened since July 27th, 2012. And it's kind of like a belated Valentine's Day rendition, especially for Orange County law enforcement here. So let's start. July 27th, 2012. We're at Harbor and Lincoln, and we got that bumper tap there to the left, boom, right there. And we'll refer you to the video that occurred where we show you the actual, you can actually hear the sound. So fender bender to our left there, and then we take off. Again, this is Harbor and Lincoln, July 27, 2012. And we have our white Nissan Sentra, the same car my wife is driving. And eventually this lady veers into my wife's lane, and as she pulls into my wife's lane, two Anaheim police vehicles pop up to the left there, right there. Okay, so Harbor and Lincoln, a little bumper tap, my wife's vehicle pops up, and then these two Anaheim police vehicles pop up. Fast forward to September 1st, we are celebrating our 15th wedding anniversary. We're at Atlantic and East Wardlow Road in Long Beach, and this Long Beach police officer throws a vehicle in front of my wife without her sirens on, and we'll show you the reference the video on that. And then oddly enough, returning home on the 710 freeway after seeing the play and having dinner and what have you, we're going along the freeway, and there's all sorts of police or fire truck lights on the other side of the freeway in the opposite direction. And it just so happens that it's at the 710 freeway and East Wardlow Road at that point. So the Long Beach police officer doing a U-turn in front of my wife at West Wardlow Road in Atlantic, and then returning home at night, we see the traffic lights on the other side of the freeway just before the East Wardlow Road overpass and the 710 freeway. And then we proceed to travel all the way back home, and we didn't see a police vehicle until we were at Lincoln near the Anaheim High School. And you can check out that video. On September 8, 2012, I was heading over to the Anaheim Library on Harbor and Broadway, and I see these police officers standing next to the trash can to the right there. And so I decided to stick around outside, and they turned out to be police officers, and one of them had their back to me, showing me his shirt that said gang unit or something along those lines. So I decided to hang outside, and they proceeded to give me the weird dirty looks and to walk away. And then either on that day, September 8th, or the next day, September 9th, someone must have vandalized my wife's vehicle. It could have happened on the same day, September 8th, at my wife's place of work, because she was at work at the time. It could have occurred in the parking garage of our apartment that night when she returned, or it could have occurred at the Costco parking lot, the Costco that's at the or near Jamboree and the 5 freeway, because it was at the Costco parking lot the next morning near Jamboree and the 5 freeway that we noticed this little damage or scratches or what have you to my wife's vehicle. So on the same day or the next day of the dirty look stare down of the Anaheim Police Department gang unit in front of the Anaheim Library, we get this little act of vandalism on my wife's vehicle. So it wasn't even 2 months into having, well, 3 months into having a car when there's already damage occurring. Some form of vandalism. Fast forward to October 18th, 2012. We're on our way to the first Citizens Advisory Committee on Elections and Community Involvement, and we're crossing along the front of the Anaheim Library, and we see one Anaheim police vehicle. Remember, that's the scene of the Anaheim Police Department gang unit dirty look stare down. Continuing on our way, we're at Brookhurst and Lincoln, and I noticed a police vehicle crossing the intersection up ahead along Lincoln, heading to my right there. And it's actually on the left hand side on this still shot, and he just goes across the intersection. So that's Brookhurst and Lincoln, again on our way to the first meeting, Citizens Advisory Committee on Elections and Community Involvement meeting in Anaheim, California. And again, this is Brookhurst and Lincoln, and of course we'll reference the videos in the description. And then returning home at Brookhurst and Lincoln, my wife is going to make a left turn onto Lincoln, and it's a 2-lane left turn, and this vehicle that looks like a Nissan pulls in front of my wife, almost causing her to hit the curb. So this is Brookhurst and Lincoln intersection, and remember we saw the police vehicle there on our way to the meeting. Now we're returning home. And you'll see in the original video that this person immediately gets over to the left lane and then pulls into one of the mini mart parking lots off to the left. So he basically, within a few seconds of this still shot, kind of disappears from the scene. The very next time that my wife and I are traveling down Brookhurst and approaching that same intersection of Brookhurst and Lincoln, just before that, I catch a glimpse of this Anaheim police vehicle in one of those rare sort of appearances near us, but he doesn't actually continue with us. He's behind our vehicle, and then I just catch a glimpse of him pulling into this apartment drive that would be the Stonegate apartments just before Brookhurst and Lincoln. And just a few minutes later, we arrive at the Home Depot near Brookhurst and Crescent, just before the freeway. And as we're walking into the store, my wife looks at this vehicle, and actually she tells me, you know, I think I just saw that person that I've been telling you about that's been parking his vehicle next to my vehicle in several locations in different parts of Orange County, different like the Ralph supermarket, parking lot, etc., etc. So I asked her, you know, let's go back outside and show me which vehicle, which person. So this vehicle had pulled in. My wife had noticed it with the gentleman, Hispanic gentleman, and she believed it was the same gentleman that she had seen in these other occasions. And so we documented that, and she picked it out especially because of the markings on the hood, because this Hispanic fellow that had parked his vehicle next to her vehicle on several other occasions had had Similar vehicle with markings on the hood like that, and that really struck a chord with me, because that's one of the ways to make sure that you actually notice that it's the same type of person or vehicle, to have some sort of distinctive marking like that. So my wife had been talking about how someone had been stalking her, and then we see this vehicle pop up, and so I just documented it, and we'll reference the original video. So Brookhurst and Lincoln, we had the near miss the last time we had been through that intersection, and then this very next time that we passed through this intersection, we get the Anaheim police vehicle pop up to the right, followed by this vehicle that seemed to be the one, according to my wife, that had been parking next to her on several different occasions. And I haven't heard my wife mention anything to me since this incident along the lines of that same sort of fellow or vehicle, and I've just kind of kept quiet and waited for her to say whatever she would want to say. Haven't brought the topic up, and so far since posting this video of this incident, I've not heard my wife mention this topic again. And as we are leaving the Home Depot parking lot and pulling onto Brookhurst, we hear a fire truck from afar with the lights and fire sirens on from what I believe is the Anaheim Fire Department. So as we're leaving the Home Depot parking lot and getting onto Brookhurst, we can hear this fire truck, and eventually he passes to our right here and gets onto the freeway after the Anaheim police vehicle and the strange vehicle in the parking lot incident. And then a couple of days later, we're at the Target store on Euclid and Lincoln, and we see I get out of the car, see a green Toyota Camry barreling down the driveway as we're heading to Target. And when we come back from Target, there's my wife's vehicle and a green Toyota Camry parks to our right. And it just so happens that this Camry has this white marking on the engine hood, and that reminded me of this incident from the day or so prior. And we have the video on all that. So I attended a gathering in support of the mothers of murdered sons. And it was a gathering at La Palma and Anna Drive. And then the next time that we just happened to be passing through La Palma and Anna Drive, we had gone to pay a cable bill somewhere in Fullerton, I believe, and we just happened to, by coincidence, pass through the same intersection where I had been recently. And so La Palma and Anna Drive. And then a few minutes later, we will arrive at Harbor and Lincoln, where we had the little bumper tap, remember, earlier. And this Anaheim police vehicle had passed along my wife's left, pulled in front of her, and then made the right turn onto Lincoln from Harbor. So that was interesting. So again, remember, that's the intersection of the bumper tap from July 27th of 2012. Some minutes later, we find ourselves at Harbor and Wilken Way, West Wilken Way, where this woman in this particular Toyota vehicle, I believe it is, I can't remember, bumps into my wife in the same sort of manner as the bumper tap from earlier that we mentioned. This lady lightly bumps my wife's vehicle. 10 minutes maybe later or so from the Anaheim police vehicle drive-by at the corner of Harbor and Lincoln, we get this lady bumping into my wife at the stoplight on the Harbor and Wilken Way. And it was a light enough bump that she actually didn't cause any damage to my vehicle or my wife's vehicle or to her vehicle. Anyway, this person looked nervous as heck, and she eventually, the encounter didn't take longer than a minute or so. We just kind of looked at each other's vehicles. She barrels out of there. By the time I turn back to look, she's gone. And as I'm walking into my wife's vehicle, and there she is with the thrilled look on her face, I hear this fire truck. And see, you notice here that this lady's gone. She vanished. And here is a fire truck pulling into the Jack-in-a-Box right there near the corner of Harbor and West Wilken Way. So, passed through La Palma and Anna Drive. We then passed through Harbor and Lincoln, where we had seen that bumper tap on July 27, 2012. Where we see now an Anaheim police vehicle pass to our left and then making the right onto Lincoln and disappearing. Followed whatever time it takes to get from Harbor and Lincoln to Harbor and West Wilken Way. This woman taps us in the rear of my wife's vehicle, the same way that that other vehicle had tapped into that other person on Harbor and Lincoln in the other direction. Same pattern, police presence, bumper tap, police presence, bumper tap, with the added bonus of a fire truck that pulls into the Jack-in-a-Box. And I could hear him approaching because they had their sirens on. So he's got his sirens on and lights on, I believe, but definitely his sirens just to pull into a Jack-in-a-Box across the street right after we had gotten bumped by this woman who had subsequently disappeared. And finally, as we're pulling out of that little parking spot where we had spoken to the woman, we're pulling onto Harbor again, continuing on, and I believe you can see the fire personnel walking into the Jack-in-a-Box across the street. Apparently they needed to have their sirens on to go to lunch at Jack-in-a-Box right after someone had bumped into my wife, which was just before the Anaheim police vehicle drive-by at the corner of Harbor and Lincoln. The same Harbor and Lincoln where we had seen on July 27th someone bump into somebody else in the rear to our left, followed by my wife's same vehicle, and then two Anaheim police vehicles. Pretty interesting coincidences, huh? Then on January 5th, 2013, as my wife was pulling out of the garage and onto Broadway, this white pickup truck, you could see him veering onto the lane that we were going to turn into. So he sort of passes across us as we're exiting the garage into our lane. We pull into the lane behind him, and we continue to follow him, tail him along Broadway. And just as we're reaching the exit there, where Anaheim police vehicles exit from the headquarters, I don't know if that's just the back entrance or what, but I definitely see Anaheim police vehicles exiting from that lot. This white truck kind of pulls out, and you can see that van pulling across the intersection there, adding more confusion to the scenario. But you can see that this white truck pulls off, exposing this vehicle that's ahead of him, permanently parked. That's a kind of a maneuver that I've seen on more than one occasion, and so I just found it suspicious. My wife was alert, and she noticed the vehicle and was able to maneuver to the left lane and what have you. But someone who might have been momentarily distracted. You could easily see a scenario where someone could basically rear end that vehicle in front as this pickup truck moves away onto the left lane, and then that same pickup truck immediately gets back onto the right lane and then hangs an immediate right on the very next corner, exiting the scene, which was also something that caught my attention. But I document this just for completeness sake. So there you have it. On our 15th wedding anniversary celebration day, we get the rare appearance and significant presence of a Long Beach police vehicle, only to see this woman turn into my wife's path with no sirens on, followed up with the scene on the freeway as we were returning home from Long Beach at the same street, Wardlow Road overpass on the freeway. 7 days later, the Anaheim Police Department gang unit, Dirty Looks, near the front entrance of the Anaheim Library, followed by vandalism to my wife's vehicle, either on that day or the very next day, which is where we saw it, near a place where I had sustained a significant accident once on the 5 freeway in Jamboree with my green Toyota Camry. That's essentially where we found the vandalism to my wife's vehicle after the Dirty Look stare down. October 18th, 2012, attending the historic meeting where they're trying to determine in Anaheim whether they're gonna change the election system here to a districting system, etc., etc. And we get the Anaheim police vehicle in front of the library, or some sort of police vehicle, maybe an Anaheim police vehicle on Brookhurst and Lincoln, on our way to the meeting, followed by the person who cuts my wife off at the same intersection as we're returning from the meeting, intersection of Brookhurst and Lincoln. And the very next time we pass through Brookhurst and Lincoln, we see the Anaheim police vehicle that comes up from behind and turns into the apartment complex there near Brookhurst and Lincoln. And a few minutes later, as we pull into the Home Depot parking lot, my wife tells me that she possibly saw the gentleman that had been stalking her in several locations throughout Orange County at the Home Depot parking lot near Brookhurst and the 5 freeway, with the accompanying Anaheim police fire truck that barrels down to Brookhurst as we're exiting the Home Depot parking lot. And finally, the July 27, 2012 incident on the corner of Harbor and Lincoln again, where we see those 2 vehicles bump each other to our left, followed by my wife's vehicle traveling alongside us on the right, who pulls in front of us, and then we see the 2 Anaheim police vehicles pop up in the opposite direction. So that's July 27th, 2012, near the corner of Harbor and Lincoln. And fast forward to December 14th, 2012, where we are coming back from paying a cable bill, and we just happen to cross through the La Palma Anna Drive intersection where it had been, I think it was like the week prior, in support of the mothers of lost children. And then a few minutes later, we're near that same bumper tap intersection of Harbor and Lincoln, where we see an Anaheim police vehicle pull in front of us and hang a right on Lincoln, exiting the scene immediately, Followed a few minutes later on Harbor and Wilken Way with the woman that taps into the rear of my wife's vehicle at the stoplight as we're pulling off. Who then disappears from the parking lot we had pulled into to inspect our vehicles. And just as she's pulling away and I'm stepping into my wife's vehicle to sit down, I hear this fire truck barreling down the street, and sure enough it pulls into the Jack-in-the-Box parking lot. And then I had actually walked with Benjamin to get a better view, so it was probably like 5 minutes later that we got back into the vehicle. And then as we're pulling onto Harbor again, we see the fire personnel, and we continue on our way. So Harbor and Lincoln, the scene of a bumper tap, white Nissan Sentra and 2 Anaheim police officers on July 27, 2012, and the scene of an Anaheim police vehicle on Harbor and Lincoln, followed by the bumper tap on Harbor and Wilken Way with the accompanying fire truck, complete with sirens, pulling into the Jack-in-the-Box across the street. So when I saw this exhibition just across from my bedroom window and saw the Anaheim police vehicles and their presence in the museum, I just had to chuckle a little bit at the irony of it all.